A new beginning for you and me and each of us in this world is the ability to be able to understand one another, because we're not very good at that now. We're not very good at understanding what is. We're not very good at being able to offer ourselves to a moment of understanding. I mean, just think of it. We think we know what everything means as soon as we read it. You know, this world that we're in today is so quick. You got to make a decision. You got to make a judgment. It's got to be done now with just about everything that we do, and you can't sit with it or learn some backstory on it so that you really get a good feel for what it really means and what it might mean to the person that wrote it or said it or, let's say, painted it. So I remember being a student in school, in high school, and I had a French teacher, and this French teacher didn't teach me much French. But when we had conversations, we talked about life, and his name was Mr. Vaucher, Max Vaucher. And Max Vaucher was an artist. And so sometimes we would talk about art. We would sit down and we would talk about art, and it was kind of an entree into the world, you know what I mean? He wanted us babies, that's the way he put it. You babies, you do not see the light. He wanted us babies to be able to see the light, you know, to gain some understanding. And so we were having this conversation about art one day, because what he decided to do in that art class was play the song Vincent by Don McLean, you know, about the Vincent van Gogh. And so we were talking about art. And he said, "Oh, another thing you do not understand, art. This is the greatest painting of all time." He points to a Van Gogh painting up on the wall. And I said, I don't see it. I don't get it. It looks like a kid did it. It really does. And he said, You see, and he started to explain to me how there are various schools of art, and many of these painters, if you will, these artists graduated from those schools, and they had some rules. That they couldn't paint in an impressionistic style until they could paint the exact picture in front of them. The exact, let's say, a vase of flowers or bowl of fruit, or the hands in perfect fashion. They weren't allowed to paint their impressionistic styles until they could do that. Because until then, it was just an artist that couldn't do much. But this is his choice, or her choice, to say something different, say something that is not contained in just a photographic style image, but it's contained in the way the colors are used, and the manner in which the paint is applied to the canvas, and the dot rather than lines, the methodology, the seeing of the matter from inside out. You know, we talk about things like Picasso, and he said, Picasso, if you look at his old pencil drawings, everything's perfect. I mean, he didn't use the word perfect. He said sort of something like, everything's childish. And I had to listen to him deeply to understand what he meant by that, you see, because he grew up. He grew up and started painting things that mattered to him, painting things that were real to him, even though they didn't look real, you know? And I thought, wow, what a lesson in art. If only I could pick up French like this, you know? And so he said he had a little gallery, or a section of a gallery in the city of Claremont, and that I should go over and look at his stuff, and I did. And he had this section where his thing of the I guess the year was to make X's on blank canvases. Just X's, but in different spaces, different parts of the canvas, in different colors, in different ways. And I thought, oh, now I understand why he talked about this, because I know he could paint it, you know. I know he could do what he needed to do to make it look like the exact photograph. But he chose to make a statement. So we have to have some understanding in order to really get it, you know, and I love that concept. The understanding that I'm talking about today kind of is illustrated in a biblical parable, and I like parables, you know, I like parables, and so I chose today's parable to be the parable of the sower. But this is Matthew 13, by the way. Anybody know the parable of the sower? All right. So if you're going to talk about understanding at a deep level, you should probably read the parable of the sower. And the entire chapter of this in Matthew is really good. It goes like this. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into the boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places, where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Ooh, that's a challenge, isn't it? Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and asked, why do you speak to people in parables? Because one of the main things that the disciples were often asking Jesus was, what does that mean? What does that mean? And he would oftentimes chastise them and go, oh, we've been working together so long, and I'm paraphrasing. We've been working together so long, and you've been given so much, and still you do not understand. Still you don't get this. So he spoke in parables, and that was also to fulfill a prophecy. In Isaiah, there's a section of prophecy, because Isaiah was a prophet, and I included that here. So Jesus says, because the knowledge of secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them, whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. And this section is from Isaiah. Though seeing them, they do not see. Through hearing them, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I will heal them. So Jesus had this idea that if he spoke in parables, that is to tell a story that he, quite frankly, made up, or maybe was passed down to him over the ages, that sort of brought to them the flavor of the idea behind it. Maybe they'd get further in their understanding quest, their quest to understand. And I think that what that's done for us here in this day and age is allowed us to study those things, to see through using context and through using our own feel around what life is all about, to see whether or not we have the right idea. But the interesting thing about this is that the idea can change the more you transform yourself to, and I'm going to use this not because I'm being judgy, but to a higher level of thought, to a higher level of understanding. As we get older, you guys, we start to see things in a different way. It's not just us anymore individually. It's not just our own egoic selves wanting something all the time, but we start to care about our family or our friends or people in the neighborhood or people we go to school with. You know, we start to care about them, and our experience widens, and our level of understanding around what everybody else is going through becomes important to us. We have learned to walk a mile in their shoes. We have learned to be compassionate when they're feeling hurt or suffering in some way. I mean, those are signs that a person is leveling up. And I'm using that phrase to let you know that we grow. We grow. We're always growing. And then we can level up, and we can see that part of this human family is not just those that we see, but those that we know live in other areas that are torn by war, that are of different religious order, that don't have the same skin color, that don't see things the same way we do, that don't speak the same language, for crying out loud. Part of that human family becomes who we can give compassion to, who we can start to understand. We don't know their ways. We didn't grow up in their culture, but that doesn't mean that we can't understand. It takes a little bit of growth, a little bit of time. And so as we do grow, as we do understand, we start to level up and we start to see that there's even more than that available to us. You know, and this is where we talk about areas of the Spirit. This is where we talk about receiving our own intuitive resource, those things that we know to be true that we can act on through faith. We recognize that those things happen to us too. How many people here have these ideas that they should do something, some intuition that they might be somewhere or need to have this connection with someone in a particular time, and they were right? How many of you have had that? I too have called someone and thought, you know, I need to call this person, and boom, it was absolutely necessary to do that. Intuitive resource. We were connected to something deeper, something more, immeasurable than that which is sitting in front of us. It's something that we don't understand unless we can, level up and engage in it. And we do. We trust our intuition because we know that it is true. We can understand it as something that comes through us. So leveling up is really, really important. And Jesus was speaking to some people who did not even understand anything but themselves. Some people who understood that they're part of a human family. They were raised with brothers and sisters. Some people that understood they were a part of a village. Some people that understood that they were more than just the religion that they were practicing, that they were part of this all that is. Some people understood that. But they were all in various degrees of understanding. They're really hard to deal with, It's hard to send a message out to the whole world when they're not on the same level of understanding. They don't get it. So he was speaking when he spoke in parables to people who could understand the common meaning of the words, which was great. That's a start. And those that could go deeper and understand that there's a deeper meaning. And the parable of the sower is one of those. I mean, I'm sure there were people in the audience that said to each other, oh yeah, he's right, we sow seeds, and when they land on the rocks, those seeds don't root, and when there's really, really shallow soil, they might come up for a moment and then die. But when there's really good soil, they truly, truly are nourished by that soil, and they pop up, they pop up. And at that level, that's okay. If that's their level of understanding, that's great. They see some truth in that, yeah. But is there something deeper? Of course. And what he's talking about is actually this understanding issue, the level of comprehension of people in general. Some people don't get it. They don't get what he's talking about. And so the seed, the kernel of truth that's being offered those people by Jesus is not understood. And the seeds die. The seeds don't take root, just like the seeds on a rock. There's no place for them to germinate, no place for them to grow. Yet some of these seeds land in a place where they can. They can start to sprout a little bit, and people who might understand it start to get a glimmer of it, and then they let it go, and the idea dies. And then there are those people that have deep consciousness, a deep soil, a space for these ideas to germinate. And he says to his disciples, you guys are that. I mean, you came, you followed, you listened, you act. The whole world is at your command, essentially. Your conscious command. So I'm going to leave it all with you. You guys are going to go out there and you're going to teach these things and do them. Do the things that I did and do them well. I mean, he was constantly along those lines. He knew that they had been at his feet listening, and it was time for them to act, time for them to do these things. Yet still, some of them didn't get it. Some of them didn't understand. So he had to say things like, for those that have more, for those that have, they shall have more. And to say it in a way that people could understand it, I mean, that doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, if you have, how could it be the right thing for you to have more? And for someone that doesn't have any, they're not going to get it. That has very little might lose what little they have. I mean, that sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds like those people that have very little should be the ones that get more. And those people that have plenty already should not need as much. But he's not talking about that. He's not talking about the material things. He's talking about the consciousness, that the soil that germinates ideas. I mean, if you can understand these ideas, you're going to get more. You're going to be able to go deeper. And now I compliment you guys, because if you're here, you're able to go deeper. If you're here, you're able to get more. If you're here, you're receiving more and transmitting more through the way that you act, and your experiences start to take hold, just like the seeds. People see it in you. People know that you're different. And so, what he's talking about is consciousness. Jesus is talking about consciousness in this parable. I mean, if you're able to understand that at a deeper level, he's not talking about seeds on soil and rock. He's talking about a level of consciousness that allows you to understand what it is he's talking about. So I have this question that I ask myself, and it's a good one. I think it's a good one. What are the necessary conditions for humankind to understand a message in such a way as to allow it to take root? You know, what are the conditions for you and me and for everyone out there to understand something so important? A message about life that is so instrumental. And to hear it in such a way that it actually takes root in our lives. I mean, you start to live that way. You start to become something different. You've had a transformational experience. What is it that allows you to do that? It turns out it's pretty simple. It's actually pretty simple because he talks about these things. Jesus talks about it. You know, he talks about inner conditions, and he says receptivity, not using that word, is really one of the most important things. I mean, he's talking about his disciples as being the receptive ones. But if you take a look at that word, what we might use today would be open-minded. Are you receptive to the message? Are you open-minded enough to hear it? Is it something that you will allow yourself to spend time inviting it to tell you something new, something perhaps very, very important? Can you give it enough attention to allow it to become a matter of the heart as well as the head? Can you feel what other people are feeling when they live in a space of war or famine or heartache or suffering or love? Can you feel that? I mean, do you have the ability to do that? To bring that idea right into your heart? Can you feel it? Wow. So what Jesus is talking about when he talks about head and heart experiences, and what we talk about in here, is we recognize that the deeper you feel it inside yourself, the more likely you are to internalize it. It's not just a fleeting thought that goes through your head. It's not just something that you think about for a minute and then boom, it's gone. You may not even remember what you were thinking about. No, this is something that's felt. It's a felt experience. That's really, really necessary for this question to be answered in the affirmative. That is, I think I know how to do it. I think I know how to understand a message in such a way that its importance can take root in me. You know, we're talking about, in the 3-minute question, we were talking about a spiritual practice. And I would bet you some of you have a spiritual practice where you actually read something or listen to something that's really important and it has an incredibly deep meaning, and then you take a moment to sit in the stillness and allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to take it in at such a deep level that it has a greater chance of blooming. that it has a greater chance of becoming that thing, that missing piece of who you want to be or who you're becoming. I think that's what Jesus was trying to do. He was trying to place people in a circumstance, a situation where it became more likely that they would understand that message at a deep level, which is head and heart. You know, it's tough when your audience is there because you're going to feed them, maybe. You know, or they're there because they are looking for a physical healing, something that they believe that they can get from this speaker, rather than something that they can internalize, understand, and utilize to become their greater yet to be. That's hard. That's hard. So he knew that a lot of people weren't going to get it. He absolutely knew that they wouldn't. Yet he continued on anyway. He continued that process anyway. So I'm a fan of parables, you guys. I'm a fan of parables. And I think this parable is all about understanding. The parable of the sower is all about understanding. And so the things that we don't understand, if we are righteous, I always hated that word, but it means something. Righteous in our pursuit, meaning we're headed straight for it. If we're righteous in our pursuit, we will hang on to the idea, we'll research it, we'll step into it in a way that makes sense, and we will eventually become it if we're steadfast. And there's another word for that too, faithful. So understanding, it's part of your new beginning. Understanding. Here's the trick. Give it time. Always set up a space where you have a moment. The gap. Give yourself a gap. So you guys are important. You are beacons of light. You have the ability to share the messages that are extremely important, which bring about a closer knit society, a closer knit group of people who are all about love, who are all about compassion, who are all about service. All of the things that our greats of every age have always shown us when they've shown us who they are. So when I say namaste to you guys, you know what that means, right? It means the God in me recognizes the God in you, and the God in you does all those things we've been talking about. The God in you does all those things. Just listen to it and let it happen. Just understand at a deeper level. So it is. Amen.